Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Coffee with Katie. Obviously we're doing a little bit of pre-filming, so not a lot of changes going on. Alright, so today's video is going to be me defending the honor of my beloved books. Today we're going to be looking at 1-star reviews of books that I really love or really like, and then defending them against the haters. So we're just gonna have like a chill, I say chill, but we're gonna be ranting a lot and you know it. So basically just what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be looking up 1-star reviews of, again, books I really love or books I really like, and seeing why people say that, and then kind of arguing back and forth. This is not to discount anyone's opinion. Your opinion is very different than mine. If you hate some of the books I love, that's totally your prerogative. Just like I have unpopular opinions of books that I will share in a later video. But this is just kind of a fun thing and a way for me to be able to like jokingly rant about why I love the books that I love. So I thought we would start off with Vicious by V.E. Schwab because, as I have dubbed it, my favorite book of all time. Obviously this one has to go first. So let's see what you people have to say. Get to the 1-star reviews. There's not that many of them, that's good. DNF at 60%? An extremely unpopular opinion. Yes! Not because Vicious is a long book, but no, I could actually read it in 6 hours if I wanted to. However, I hated this book. Why? Why did you hate it? To sum up my thoughts, every character is bland. The backstories suck. There is not a single vicious person. Okay. You think the backstory of Victor Vale and Sydney is bland? I'm sorry, you're just wrong. And what do you mean there's not a single vicious person? They're all vicious. Most of all, Victor and Eli, although Sydney's sister's also pretty vicious. How can you say no one's vicious in this book? How? Have you read Victor Vale or Eli? Okay, and they're saying, I also want to point out I expected a lot more brutality throughout this book, but was sorely disappointed. I'm someone who likes death descriptions and a lot of murder like a messed up person, and despite the story which this book told, I got none. Okay. It's not a horror book, no. It's not like a war hero horror book, any type of those things, but it's a little graphic. It's not that graphic. I'll give her that if that's her whole point. All right. The characters seemed shallow to you. The concept wasn't original, and the writing and dialogue were pretty average, so clearly I missed whatever it was that made this book genius. I guess comic book world, like if we're looking at X-Men or something like that, this premise is not necessarily that creative, but I think it's a pretty unique premise. And I don't understand when people say the characters are shallow, because I loved dissecting Victor Vale's character. Do you just not like sociopaths that have their own code? I just don't. Okay. All right, if you've DNF'd the book at 34%, you do not get to rate it a 1-star. My opinion. Because you don't know what's happening. You don't know. You have no clue. Why is everyone saying the characters have no personality? Okay, this person said they didn't really like all the back and forth between the timelines. So like the 10 years ago, 2 days ago, 5 years ago, that stuff. I can give you that because sometimes when you mess with timelines like that, it can be really confusing for some people. So I will give you that that's an understandable qualm. I do not think you should be rating it low though if you're saying that the characters annoyed you because they're not likable characters. They're villainous, horrible characters. They're supposed to be unlikable, even though obviously I very much like some of them. They're not supposed to be good. They're not supposed to be endearing. Some of the dialogue also felt very dramatic and unnatural. Yeah, because it's like a comic book-esque type situation, which if you've ever read comic books, they're cheesy. But that's kind of their thing, and that's why they're good, honestly, is because they're kind of this cheesy, dark, sadistic thing. And if you watch like superhero movies, they kind of bring in that cheesiness because that's that whole realm. Oh my gosh! A story about villains which was not as compelling as the blurb implied. The two main characters were not remotely likable or interesting, so I don't really care what they did or why they did any of the things they did. The characters kept doing things that didn't make sense, even taking into account the book explanation of them suddenly becoming sociopaths. They're not supposed to be likable characters. Say it with me, everyone. They're not supposed to be likable. And they became sociopaths because a part of their humanity was stripped away. Why is this hard for people to understand? Unrealistic and one-dimensional? I'm sorry. How realistic is it for you to create an experiment to make you a supervillain? And to develop superpowers? Probably not very realistic. I'm sorry. You're entitled to your opinion, but sass is coming out. Sloppy writing, lazy characterizations, and I had absolutely no emotional attachment to any of it. Man. The whole read wouldn't stop telling me things and expected me to buy it just because it said so. I need compelling and believable storytelling, and this just didn't do it for me at all. Okay. So, I don't really understand that, because for me as a reader, when I'm reading something, in general, there's a very few handful of examples that I could give where it's the opposite. But in general, I accept whatever is told to me because it's a fantasy world. It's not real. It's not a contemporary or something like that where we're in a modern society where this can actually happen. So when I'm being told things, I'm like, okay, because it's the magic system or the superheroes or the fantasy elements. And I'm not sitting there like, oh, this is so unbelievable because it's fantasy. Of course it's unbelievable. I wish wizards were real, but they're not. So I have trouble understanding why people go there. So I don't know. All right, we're gonna stop the vicious ones right now. Now we're gonna go to the ones that's gonna shatter my heart into pieces, which is Caraval. Please be gentle. And we're just gonna do the first one, even though the first one's not necessarily my favorite. We're just gonna start there. Well, that was disappointing. That was their whole review. Why? I want to know, Samantha. Why was it disappointing? It's ideas stolen from a bunch of other books like The Lunar Chronicles, Hunger Games, Night Circus, and such. There was no originality here whatsoever, and on top of it, it's boring AF. How dare you? I would not say it has elements of any of those series or books stolen. So that's a very odd thing to say. Not from my perspective, I can't really understand that. It's also not boring, oh my gosh, it's so fun. Okay, they're saying because one of the characters' names is like the same as a character in the Lunar Chronicle. That doesn't mean anything, you can reuse names. They're saying that the characters they were most interested in weren't in the book that much, which I feel isn't really fair to say because those characters play a bigger role in the other books. All right, lots of comparisons to other fandoms, so I don't know. My first 1-star rating of the year, even though I finished this book within a day, I feel so meh about it. I don't even know how to review it. Whilst reading, I tried to think of one aspect of this book that made it appealing for me, and now that I finished it, I can't think of a single one. Other than the cover. Now I just feel numb, devoid of any feelings and emotion to the point of causing me discomfort. Curls up in a ball. You confuse me. Not because you cannot like this book, whatever. It confuses me that you felt compelled enough to finish the story to read it in a day, but you don't know what you think about it. You feel meh about it. And you tried to think of an aspect of the book that made it appealing for you and you couldn't think of it even though you read the book in a day, so you gave it a 1 star? Alright. I picked up Caraval by Stephanie Garber from the library merely because of the pretty book cover and the hyper on GR and free copy from library. Not sure what that part means. Nothing too bad can happen here, right? Well, there's your first mistake. You judged a book by its cover. Did you read the synopsis? Is it a book you were actually interested in? Tell me. Oh, you DNF'd it. You don't even know. What do you mean, where's the danger? And wonders and magic. Ma'am, there was multiple instances. The magic drink. The crazy stuff where she like loses days of her lives. People being murdered. I don't know, maybe somewhere in there. Every time I see this book on my feed, I want to rate it lower. Why? That's all this review says. This person's 1-star review just says, I think I need a break from YA. Oh, I don't know why that's funny to me. That's fine. YA is not for everyone. I can't. This book is the grossest thing I have ever read. I'm sorry. Trigger warning. This book was dark, sadistic, and a bit sexual at times. Suicide is committed. So we went from there's no danger to dark and sadistic. Not the same person, obviously, but this was slightly weird and creepy and weird. Is it just me, or does anyone else have the strange suspicion that Stephanie Garber ate something weird, had a strange dream, and then decided to write a whole book series about it? Honestly, I can't say the characters or the writing or the style was bad, but the content and the darkness and the evilness of it was all just sickening. I was always a lighter reader. Dark books just aren't my thing for the most part unless they have hopeful undertones. Well, doesn't sound like this was the book for you, man. It is a little dark. I wouldn't say it's that dark. Like, my goodness, do not read Vicious or many other books. I'm sorry you didn't like it, though. This one says, The Hunger Games meets the Night Circus. So this is a book about a girl who got so hungry one night after playing games that she ate the whole circus. What? I don't think you understood the assignment. I would not say this is Hunger Games-esque at all. I would not compare it to the Night Circus. In fact, let me just get on my little soapbox here. A lot of people say that they don't like Caraval when they read it because they said it was pitched as a circus story, much like the Night Circus or other books that have circus in it. It is never once mentioned that Caraval is a circus. It is pitched in a way that Caraval is a performance, and there's carnival-esque aspects to Caraval, but never one time have I ever heard it advertised, seen a blurb, or seen a description that says that Caraval is a circus. So if you're going into that book thinking you're gonna get a circus out of it, that's not what it is. It was never intended to be such. So it really irks me when people go into it and they're like, well, this was pitched as a circus story, and it's not. It was never supposed to be, and it was never pitched as a circus story. You somehow wove that into your mind and your expectations of the book, and that's not the case. And that's not poor Caraval's fault. That's your fault. So I'm sorry, person, you're wrong. You're wrong. All right, the next book we're gonna look at 1-star reviews for is gonna be Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco, which is right here. I gotta prepare myself for this. This is like hurting my soul. She Who Must Not Be Named, that's her name on Goodreads, says, there were so many inconsistencies in the plot. Emilia as a character was super annoying and did illogical things most of the time. There was zero chemistry between the leads, and the mythology could have been explained in a better way. Her writing style is very different from her Stalking Jack the Ripper series, and I was left confused. Okay, first off, Emilia does make kind of semi-illogical or just like kind of rash, desperate decisions. However, I would argue, I don't know what you've read, what you've reviewed, I would argue that a lot, if not most, main characters, especially in fantasy books, make horrible choices, terrible decisions, to the point where I feel like I just want book recommendations where people make smart decisions. But anyway, main characters make horrible choices, stupid choices. So I don't know, I understand if you, like, it can come out in different ways in different books that just really irk you, but I would argue that that's the case for a lot of books, not just this one. I can understand why you think the mythology was not explained well. I would partially agree that there was a lot of loose ends that were not explained in the review that I did for this book. I put my 2 cents in that I think that is intentional for the second book, but I can understand why that would be frustrating. I will give you that one. Sheena says, if I made a list of top worst books of 2020, this would be on it. That's it. Why? I need reasonings, people. This book was so bad. Why? This one says 30% of this book is an Italian cookbook, and the remaining 70% is lost potential. DNF at 60%. Okay. I will give you the Italian cookbook part because the food is a very big aspect of this book. You cannot say that 30% of this book is an Italian cookbook and 70% of this book is lost potential if you DNF'd it before you know all the percentages. At 60%, sure, that's over halfway, but you cannot give me a percentage if you have not read the whole thing. Excuse you. It's really funny though. It is very heavy in the food. Super, super, super YA to the point of childishness. Dumb main character who tried to act bad A when she wasn't. Fell for the classic trope of trying to fix broken, evil, immortal hot guy. No personality, annoying, didn't do crap. She's a witch, but can't really do magic. Like, what? Sorry, that was just me being funny. I would argue with this that she does not actually try to fix Wrath. And in fact, she's so convinced that he's going to turn on her or destroy her that she keeps him at a distance, even though in my opinion, that's the stupidest decision. I would argue with that. I will give you that there's some romance, but I don't think you could even call it that. There's like hints of it, but there's not a lot, which was okay. This person's 1-star review is just ha 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 in all caps for like a million. You're not gonna be able to see that. Like a million years. And that's it. What? Let's do 6 of Crows. 6 of Crows it is. Okay, this person seems to have a lot more in-depth thoughts on this. So we're gonna do 6 of Crows next. Don't get me wrong, and don't judge me by the rating. This book is remarkable. It is remarkably well written, especially for YA fantasy fiction. The characters are remarkably well developed, and the plot and premise are remarkably intriguing. This book is also remarkably dark. I am not sure what I was expecting, but it wasn't total darkness on a foggy night, teenage characters apparently without morals, a quest that could be seen as a crime in itself, but I can see why people love this book. It is amazingly well written, and I probably can't say that enough times to make you get any sense of how good it is, but it is so very dark and gritty and not what I was expecting. Her issue is that it was dark and gritty. That's why I like it. So we just don't vibe in that area, and that's okay. If you don't want to read dark stories, don't read happy fluffy things. I don't know if that's what you're reading, I don't know. But if that's not your thing, that's not your thing. I can understand why you would pick up this book and be disappointed if you wanted it to be more lighthearted, because it's not, which is why I love it, but to each their own. This person says, the core group of characters might well be the most boring group of protagonists I have ever met? What? I could not find myself getting interested in anyone. My suspicion of disbelief was broken from the first couple of pages when we were told that none of these characters were past 18. Okay, it's YA. What did you expect? The characters themselves are very underdeveloped, and Kaz himself is a psycho a-hole with no redeeming qualities. I don't think any of these characters are underdeveloped. And yes, Kaz is a very dark edgelord type person, but he does have redeeming qualities. He just doesn't let them show because that's a weakness. All right, and one of their critiques is that when the heist is finally being put into execution, things go wrong. This person said they could not care less because they didn't really know what was part of the plan and what wasn't. You're told this wasn't part of the plan, but you don't know what it is, so you only keep reading without feeling, oh no, this sucks. I would not say that. I quite enjoyed how the different problems in the duology itself, so the first book and the second book, I enjoyed how the problems were solved and how you were kept in the dark in certain areas and how the plan was unraveled or like came together at some point that you were told later on, not in the beginning. I enjoyed that because it kind of helped me understand how Kaz as a character was able to problem solve and plan. He has a very intricate mind. He could strategize and like think ahead in different scenarios and how different things would play out and have plan A's and plan B's. I really enjoyed that. This person said, the only thing I liked about this book was that its pages were black. Other than that, too wordy, slow paced, and I didn't care about any of the characters. Well, I'm glad someone like you got one of the first editions with the sprayed edges and I did not. I'm just kidding, but if you have that, please give it to me. I do not think it was slow paced because that is an issue for me as well. And that was never something that crossed my mind. And I thought it would, honestly. I thought that it would be too slow paced for me, but it was never an issue for me. And slow pacing can kill books for me. I don't have a lot of, I don't know if it's patience. I just don't have a lot of attention span if things aren't gripping me to push forward. So if things are slow paced, I have issues with that too. So I'm sorry you felt that way, but I never felt that way with these books. All right, let's try to do one more. Ooh, let's do Renegades, Renegades. All right, the next one we're gonna do is Renegades by Marissa Meyer, which is up there. This person is very passionate. It says, ugh, but it's got like a million H's. And it says, if I had more willpower to add more ugh to my ugh, then I would. But I don't, because I'm tired of this book. I hate this book with every ounce of my sanity and my soul. I feel bad that I do because I was really looking forward to loving it. Because it's Marissa Meyer, the same author of the amazing, fantabulous Lunar Chronicles, which doesn't make any sense to me. How can the same person have written both a piece of artwork and a piece of trash? Trash? I don't understand. I know no logic. I am confusion. I hate Nova. I hate Adrian. I hate Adrian's alter ego. I hate everyone. I hate everything about this book. The hatred is overwhelming. I wanted to perish. I wanted to throw myself into the effing sea reading this book. But I survived. I'm a renegade survivor. Amazing, wonderful, and to think I ever doubted myself. What was the point of this book? I'm sorry, what? I don't understand why this was such a chore for you to read this book. I'm kind of dumbfounded with this. I'm kind of at a loss for words. I can't believe you said this was trash, for one. So you hated all the characters, you hated the premise, you hated everything. That's basically all I'm getting from this review. So, okay. I liked several of the characters. I would not say I loved all of the characters, but there were several that I really liked. The story in itself, I think, is really fun and really interesting because it's a superhero-esque society that also has these villain-esque type characters, and they're trying to squash the villainous type characters. The villains are trying to have it so people have freedom, and it's not this like society where they're crushing down everyone's freedom. And you see like the toxic sides of both extremes, which I think is very interesting. And I love like superhero-esque type stories. So I don't really know where you're coming from, to be honest. And I think, this may be unpopular, I think the Renegade series is much better than the Lunar Chronicles, and I liked the Lunar Chronicles. All I'm really seeing from you is that you hated this book, but you won't really tell me why. Let me continue. Just saying that you thought there was nothing in this book. You thought the main character was one-dimensional. Felt like you were reading about nothing and the plot was non-existent. Yeah, I don't get you, man. I mean, there's definitely a plot. I don't think the characters were that bad. I don't even know what to say to you right now. I only read about 70 pages, but I feel pretty strongly that this is a 1 star. That was the most awkward 70 pages I've ever read. This book should not have been in third person. Yeah, it was a dual narration, but dang, the wording was so awkward. Too many she's and hens and theirs. It was hard to figure out who the sentences were talking about. I'm going to continue reading this review, but I swear, if you only read 70 pages of this book and then you gave it a review, we're going to have words. All right, thought there was too much info dumping, thought too many characters were introduced in the 70 pages they read. Okay, so one of her qualms is that the main character who hates the Renegades is hating the Renegades for not coming to save her family. They think that doesn't make sense. You think she'd be trying to assassinate the people that actually killed her family not the people that didn't show up to save her family. If you read the book, which apparently you didn't because you only got 70 pages in, she can't kill those people because they're all dead. And she's angry at the society that makes them lean on superheroes for help and to make them helpless instead of empowering the citizens. Just so you know. All right, so you only read 70 pages of this? That's why you didn't like it? Well, you may not have liked it if you'd finished it. I'm not gonna tell you you can't or should not DNF a book if it's not your thing and you're not vibing with it. But do not criticize a book in 70 pages and write a review saying that it's like you didn't care, there's too much info dumping, blah, blah, blah. It's a fantasy book. It's an urban fantasy book. There's going to be world building, especially in the first part of the book. You cannot blame the book for that. I feel like that's pretty unfair. I understand if there's too much thrown at you at once, that can be very jarring. If that's not your thing, that's fine. I don't think this is very fair. And again, like the third person thing, like that's an opinion, and if that's not your thing and that's not your style, and you just really don't like reading that, understandable. But don't say this book was bad if you only read 70 pages. Say, hey, this book did not grab my attention and I just really didn't appreciate the way it was info dumping, but I didn't finish it, so I don't know. Say that. This person just said 1 stars. Like, put 1 star and then wrote 1 stars. Lots of DNFs, that's surprising to me. This person said, I consider myself a Marissa Meyer fan or, well, a Lunar Chronicles fan, so I was especially disappointed while reading this. I kept forgetting that it was MM's writing. The story just seemed kind of bland and painfully slow. I didn't connect to most of the characters, and the superpowers just seemed boring and over-the-top cheesy, not to mention it took me over a month to finish. All right, everyone. When we talk about superheroes in comic books, in movies, when we talk about superheroes in books, they are going to have some level of cheese. I don't care who it is, who they are, that is a very superhero-esque culture. There's some cheese. Whether you think it's cheesy or not, because like I don't think a lot of things are cheesy, but that's because I'm used to the superhero personality and the superhero types. So like, okay, I can see where it would be cheesy, but to me it's not, whereas other people are like, oh, that's so cheesy. But I very much love the superhero realm. So if you're gonna complain about superheroes being cheesy, go to another genre or go to another story, because this is not where you need to be. It's gonna have some. So if that's your main complaint on superhero books, I'm sorry, I don't get it. I can't believe you said it was painfully slow, because again, that was not the case for me. I could maybe see that if you were in the second book, but you're not. You're talking about the first book. And even then it's slower, but it's not slow at all. For everybody that I'm reading these reviews of, I would love to know, to have discussions with you and know what you think about these things. All right, I think we're gonna end this video there. I've been sitting here for way too long. Comment down below your opinions on any of these books that were mentioned in this video, whether they are 1-star reviews, 5-star reviews, you loved it, you hated it. I would love to know what you think. If you made it this far into the video, leave a black heart emoji. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time. Bye.